Hello and welcome to another Vintage Schumacher RC video. This is, what is this? We're carrying on with the front. Not quite finished it yet. So we are going to, battery bracket. I'm going to run brushed motor. So I'm thinking about position. I'm going to use a NiCad battery. I'm not into LiPo batteries yet, so I'm running NiCads and brushed. I'm very old-fashioned, very old-fashioned. So, very shock mount, lovely. Very good quality carbon fiber, very good, very good. Lots of Swiss cheese at the top, lots of holes. This is obviously why it's called a varied shock mount. I do worry about how strong that'll be with all those holes, but that's just me. I'm considering, what am I considering? I'm considering what setup. I'm not following, as you may have guessed, I'm not following the manual setup, which is default. I'm not sure what the default setting is in the manual. What track? It might just be to get it running. I don't know. But anyway, this is a carpet setup. I've decided to go carpet setup, even though there's many setups to go for. I think this will first run on carpet. Anyway. What I'm talking about, rubbish. Very shock mount. I've got my bolts in. I'm putting my nuts on. You need to put your nuts on, people. Very important. Let's get those nuts on. If you've not built a Schumacher car before, this is a very standard system. It might be standard system for other cars, but I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, I'm looking at it thinking I need a spanner to lock these together. Because what you do, you get one spanner on one nut. This one's too big because it touches both nuts. Because the nuts are quite slim, you need a thin spanner to hook onto the bottom nut, so you can lock them together. What you do, you go one left, one right, so you pull them together. This is the method how you lock your nuts. It's very handy because if you've got multiple shock absorbers to hand, say you go to track and you think to yourself, I'm not sure what the track's going to be like today, then what you do, you wrap up your kit, put all your stock of shock absorbers in your box, and then when you get to the track you go, oh no, I need to change my shocks. So what you do, you undo your locking nut on the front and you pop it off, and it's quick as that. This is why this system is like this. So it's the speed of your setup, you can change it. But saying that, you've got your bolts at the top which are in a certain position. It would take a few minutes to move them. But anyway, ignore me. I'm just talking the rubbish again. But anyway, let's get these nuts on. Got to remember, people, I'm doing this in real time, so you can see the full process. We're not going to do any fancy editing. I don't want to edit stuff out where you think, oh, how did you do that? This is how we do it. This is how we roll. This is how we show a build. See, look, I've got an issue. Tiny issue there, look. My spanner I've chosen for said locking together is slightly too fat. It's touching both nuts. I'm thinking, look there, I'm grabbing a different spanner, a nice thin spanner to get onto the nut. Sorry about this nut situation, but you might face the same problem. This is why I've not fast forwarded this, and this is why I want to show a very basic issue, but it's a very important basic issue. I think toolage is quite important when it comes to building your model. You got to remember, the fundamentals of this isn't just racing. It's not all about car setup. It's about building your model. If you can successfully build your model and you understand how you build your model, then in the future you can easily understand how to set your model up. It all becomes clear. If you get something out of the box which is already done and you just plug it in and you drive it, it breaks and you start scratching your head. You think, how am I supposed to fix this? So this is the situation where you start from scratch. You build your model, you break your model, and then you know exactly how to repair your model. And then you get into a point where you start thinking, oh, I'm getting very good at driving. I want to change my setup. And you've got the knowledge. You've got the knowledge because you've already built it, you've broke it, you've repaired it. Now you think, I can set this up. Well, eventually. You learn to do it. But anyway, here we are. We are fitting the varied shock mount to the lower and upper suspension bulkheads. I'm using a 4mm spacer when I fit this. This is going to be my carpet setup spacer. The spacer goes between your varied shock mount and your upper suspension bulkhead, and your two screws go through your washers, not your washers, your spacers. So remember that, people. 4mm. Check where I've put my screws. I think it's two from the side. I think it was 2 from the outer edge, and then a 4mm spacer. That is carpet for the front. So let's get these these are balls, not sockets, these are ball joints. I've noticed that these are quite short. Obviously they're short because your suspension mount goes in front of the lower suspension bulkhead, So which means it puts your turn knuckles that adjust your camber slightly closer. So that does make sense why these are short. But anyway, don't worry about that. I remember when I first built my original Cougar back in 1990, everything was new. Building the front end was a completely new entity with it being a Cougar. Because remember, the top cat was the same back end. The back end was the same. Just I'd already had a top cat. And the interesting thing was, I like this about the Schumacher team, that if you had a top cat already, they produce a kit where you could just buy a full kit, turn your car into a Cougar, like in one bag. Remember that? That was I remember buying the kit. It wasn't to convert my top cat, it was to have spares. It's like to have a spare front end. I remember building it, putting it in a drawer. I never used it. But anyway, that's a very long time ago. So, where are we? Yes, we're finally tightening these ball. My spanner's stuck. My spanner, get off my spanner, man. Yeah, I think this spanner isn't quite the right size. It must be slightly out. But anyway. So all the people out there that bought the Top Cat, I wonder how many bought the kit to convert the front. I wonder how many bought the kit. But saying that, I never saw a kit to convert your cougar into a top cat. So, Mr. Schumi, marketing idea. Say, I know you're still selling the Cougar Classic. I know, notice that the top cat's been discontinued. So why don't you sell a kit to convert your Cougar Classic into a top cat? That would be a very, very good marketing ploy, mainly to sell stuff. I think that's a good idea, you know, people. You could convert your Cougar Classic into a top cat. But then again, you could put all the modifications, like the shorter front end, like the short wishbones and the geometry kit. Oh, wow, Mr. Schumi. I think that is a very good money-making idea. Do a kit to convert your Cougar Classic into a top cat. And, oh, well, that's another idea. How many people would put that kit onto... Oh, no, the chassis is different. Oh, no, Mr. Schumi. You would have got people building works Cougars into top cats. Wow. Now that does boggle the mind. But saying that, you could just grind out your chassis. I think we may have an idea, people. A very good idea for a video. It'd be like a Franken Top Cat Cougar Classic / works. Now that is a thought. But anyway, let's just forget about that. But that is a very good idea, Mr. Schumi. Sell a kit to convert your Cougar to a top cat. And then know what you'll get. You'll get people buying more Cougar Classics and conversion kits. But anyway, let's not talk about marketing ideas. Let's look at this Cougar Works Classic. I forgot where I am. What am I doing? Oh yes, now I'm fitting the 4mm spacers. You do in the kit, you get quite a varied selection of spacers. I think this is for the rear end as well, and like your towing and your stuff like that on the back and stuff. So you get a little selection of spacers, which is very handy because you can chop and change your setup quite easily. But saying that, it puts a lot of variations into the setup, which might confuse people. But anyway, let's not talk about confusion. We were talking carpet setup, 4mm. They call it kick out, between the lower suspension bracket, bulkhead, and the upper, and this nice big fat screw. I mean, I've mentioned in the past the quality of the screws. I've got a funny feeling that many people, including myself eventually, might think about changing out the screws. I might go for a kit of stainless steel screws, hex, I think. I think they would work really well on this. But I've got to wait for all the mods to come out. I've got the dual or double bearing steering, or what they called, axle, or whatever you call them, double bearing steering yoke things. I've got them to come eventually when they're released in March. That's a long wait. Then again, you've got your anti-roll bar go on the front, which will stop grip roll, maybe. You've got anti-roll bar on the back. I don't remember. I've actually got an anti-roll bar for my Cougar, my original Cougar. Never fitted it, anti-roll bar. But nice little kit in the bag. But anyway, here I am. I'm slotting in my 4mm. You want to try and make sure you keep this accurate. Don't just smash any spacer in. Get it 4mm. And then that'll be nice, very nicely set up for carpet. All you got to do is build your shocks, which I've not done that. I mean, do people find putting shocks together a job, or do you find it fun? I've put many shocks together in the past, and sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's not fun at all. But anyway, let's get these spacers in here, and come on, let's get the spacers in. I'm using gravity to help me get these spacers in. So now let's get them screwed in. See, the thing is, my bugbear with the screws for the works is that I don't know if they're all posi drive, but I don't think they're Phillips. I think they're posi drive, because posi drive's pointed end. Phillips is a little bit bigger. So my little screwdriver that I've been using for the last, when did I buy this screwdriver? maybe 35 years screwdriver. But anyway, no, I bought it. What was it, 89? 36 years, sorry. But anyway, I've always used my orange-ended screwdrivers, my flat-bladed one and my Phillips one. But they don't like these screws for some bizarre reason. So I've had to change the end in my Butch screwdriver, which I very rarely use, to be fair. I normally use my orange one. But, I don't know if anyone will ever notice, but I've used an original upper suspension plate. It's tiny. It's slightly different to the original. It's smaller. It's not as wide. That is a little homage to the works, putting a bit of history in there. But I bet you no one ever notices. But I'm not bothered. I just did it for me. And now, okay, good question. Do people find putting these ball joints, ball sockets onto the end of turnbuckles a job, or do you find it fun? I find it monotonous, because you just got to keep turning them on. Luckily, there's only 6 on these models, 4 at the front, 2 at the back. But these are all the same size on the front, so it don't matter. All you got to do is adjust the distance. But I'm going to call this a pro tip, okay? It's not actually a pro tip. It is a very, very tiny little bit of information that is in the manual. That if you look at your turn knuckles, there is a slightly different shape. You know where you hold your spanner on that tiny little centre bit? There's a tiny little shape that tells you, I think the angle's different. The angle's different on the little bit where you put your spanner, and it tells you which is left and which is right. So nice bit of nugget of information. And the other thing I always find is a pain. So when these ball joints are brand new, they won't go on. You know, because the bar is flat and it's not tapered. I don't struggle to get them on. It's just that because they're not tapered, and because the ball joints are not got any threads in them, you've got to cut your own threads. So what I always do, I mean, you could put a tiny bit of grease on the thread to help you turn it in the future, but I've not bothered doing that. What I do, I turn the ball joint all the way down. So I cut the thread all the way into the ball joint. So in the future, when it's on the car, I'm not cutting new thread. I'm just using the thread that I've already cut, if that makes sense. So turn them all the way down, and then turn them back out. See, this is what I mean. Do people find this task fun, or do they class it as part of the build and it's a job? I mean, I like it how my spanner fits the ball joint so I can easily turn it. So if someone's just fast forwarded this to this point and they see my thumb holding the turnbuckle, I've got a spanner. It's a very small spanner. I had to buy it specially for these because these are tiny. Can't believe. Come on, Mr. Schumi. The original ones were nice and chunky. You had a nice big groove which told you which was left and which was right. And they were chunky. And you could easily get a spanner on them and you could easily adjust them. These turnbuckle adjustments are really small. Why do they have to be really small? I mean, I know you can get a spanner on them, but come on, guys, they're tiny. Let's look at the past and think, why did we change them? The original ones were chunky and they worked really, really well. But anyway, let's not moan. We are not moaning. We are just having an opinion. Everyone is entitled to an opinion. And tell me what you think, people. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you find these turnbuckles a job, or do you enjoy doing them? I mean, ooh, blimey. They don't take that long, but I don't enjoy doing these because you have to mess about. I want to get the car on the track. I want to get racing. And is that another thing? Are people builders or are you racers? I mean, I do enjoy the build and I do enjoy the modification, but then I do enjoy seeing what happens after all that. See, it's like when you, I don't know if anyone's ever built a radio-controlled airplane from scratch, like from the kit with the balsa wood. Oh, blimey, they've changed a lot as well. Nowadays, they're all foamies. But in the Stone Age, when you actually bought a kit out of balsa wood and you built it, all I'm saying is, my tangent is saying that when you've built something, it's nice to see it work or fly. I remember building my first plane and I was very surprised it flew. Very surprised it flew. But that's my point. It's very nice to see these cars perform and perform well after the build. That's all I'm saying. It's nice to build, but it's also nice to see the finished product fly around the track perfectly without hitting anything. That would be nice. But anyway, so my technique, and if anyone else is thinking, how can you make this easier? These turnbuckle situations, you can't. You hold a spanner on the centre and you hold a spanner on the turnbuckle. I mean, you could use pliers, but then you end up damaging them. The spanner I used fits them quite nicely, so they are intact. I'm not actually damaging them. They slot on quite nicely. I do use my bony fingers eventually to adjust them, but only marginally. I mean, another thing is I use my digital gauge to measure these. So if you've not got one and you do build a lot of models, they are very, very useful, these digital gauges. Very accurate, I've lost my Camber gauge, so I keep on losing stuff. So I want to set the camber for my wheels. See, this is part of the carpet setup as well. But that will be when I've got the wheels on. And I can find my camber gauge. I might have to buy another one. But never mind. So I've adjusted these. I have checked these. My gauge is set to millimeters. So if you are building this in a country that does not use the millimeter, then adjust you. I think your gauges do both. Your gauges do both actually, do millimeters and eighths and stuff like that. But anyway, I've speeded up this next section because you don't want to see me doing 4 of these in real time. So it's all the same technique, all rinse and repeat, all the same technique. You mess around, you turn them, you adjust them, and that's it. So my technique is get a nice spanner that fits your turnbuckle. I think the spanner I use for turning them is 5.5 millimeters. Those in other countries might want to convert my 5.5 millimeters into old school. What would it be? Let's get my brain thinking. I think back in the day when I did the old school thing, we did both. Unfortunately, we did both. We did the AF and we did the millimeters. So your 5.5 millimeters, if my brain can work, is 0.2 inches, which is that's not really small enough, is it? That's quite inaccurate, to be fair. 0.2 inches. We need it in eighths, don't we? Eighths into eighths or 16ths. Would it be a 16th or would it be an eighth? Anyway, let's forget about that. But anyway, we're all done then, people. So turnbuckles on, suspensions on, carpet setup is almost half done on the front. And that's the video. That is the video, people. And if you've watched it this far, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to. And I think we're going to call that done for this video. Okay, people. So thank you very much for watching. And laters.